All right, this is a PSA for this video that's coming up. It's a long one. I am currently coming over an injury, and so this is what I think happened, how the whole thing unfolded. And so if you're not interested, just turn it off now. And if you're interested, enjoy. Yes, it's been a very difficult last 3 weeks. I had originally intended to do Eagleman, and everything was going really, really well. Preparations were going as good as they could. And one evening about 3 weeks ago, I did a 20K run. Felt great, didn't feel anything during the run. Later that evening, I started to feel something a little in my gluteal area, and was like, didn't think much of it, just the general wear and tear and grind of training. Next morning, I woke up, still wasn't too bad. Did my bike workout, didn't really feel it during the bike workout. Didn't really feel, a little bit afterwards. Just chalked it up to maybe a little bit glute pull or glute strain. Did a run that evening, 10K. Felt it ever so slightly in the middle of the run. And then that evening, it just absolutely ballooned and I couldn't put pressure on my right foot. Like literally, I could have used a cane because I couldn't walk. And so then that next day, Sunday, I took off completely because I was very, very conscious of this could potentially be a sacral stress fracture because I've had one before and it felt very much like a sacral stress fracture. Then Monday morning, the next day, I woke up, still felt pretty bad, like not as bad as it was. I could still walk. I could walk at least, but I still had very sharp, like nerve type or bone type pain on every step. And so then I messaged my doctor. Immediately, we started the process of getting an MRI, and then a few days to get in for the MRI, then a few days to get the results back. Went into the doctors, he reviewed them, and he's the same doctor who had diagnosed my rib stress fracture and also my previous sacral stress fracture. And he said, the MRI looks good, there's nothing, your spine looks good, your discs look good, the sacrum looks good, everything looks good. So that was a bit reassuring. And so then I kind of, worked with my physio at home, and we did some gluteal, dry needling, and started the cupping, scraping, started the process of treating it as if it was SI joint dysfunction, which I guess SI joint dysfunction and a sacral stress fracture or a stress fracture in that area can be very difficult to tease apart because they both present very similarly. And so then another week went by of doing these kinds of things, and it still was really sharp pain every step. And so then I started to get quite worried. I consulted with another person, and they were like, oh man, it's really sounding like a stress fracture. I hate to tell this to you, but it's really sounding like a stress fracture. You should get in for a CT scan because now it's been about 2 weeks. And, if there's a fracture line of any sort in a CT scan, it should show itself by now. And so went in for a CT scan. That's now coming up on a week ago. And that came back a few days ago. And once again, it looks good. There's nothing really popping out that's like bone related. So that's good in one sense, but then in the other sense, it's literally been up until about a day ago where I was still having sharp pain basically in every movement. Like I couldn't walk normal, couldn't go downstairs, couldn't lift anything, even swimming. I took a week completely off of everything. The first time I've taken a week off in literally 15 years. And it's still, I can still feel it walking around. And so it's very difficult to think that it's anything other than a stress fracture once you've had one. So anyways, now I'm back home, and I've been seeing my massage therapist who I saw actually 10 years ago, whom I met through a very similar injury where I was having a sharp pain and it wouldn't go away. And then he worked his magic and did a bunch of active release and stuff, and literally the next day I was able to run again. And so I've been seeing him, and it has been loosening up. I've been using a bone stimulator on it. Right now I'm sitting here doing a little red light therapy on it. And unfortunately, this is an extremely difficult injury to diagnose what exactly it is. It's evading the machines right now. It could still very well be a stress fracture or a stress reaction. So we've had to just take the approach that it's a stress reaction and it's SI joint dysfunction. And so we're treating both of these ailments as you would, which means I'm coming up on 3 weeks off of running. I'm back swimming. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to aggravate it, and I actually seem to be getting better. Tomorrow, I'm getting back on the bike, and we'll go from there. This is unfortunately how you deal with a stress reaction. Is I would think what it very likely is, just small. And I caught it early, and so it's just not showing itself on imaging. And you just slowly introduce load over time, and give it the body time to recover, and just listen and make sure that you don't go backwards. I was so discombobulated and like really frustrated for the first while, because I just feel like I had corrected all of my errors from a training standpoint. And I was training so well. I was proving to myself that it works, that I understand what I'm doing. I'm racing well. I'm feeling great doing it. And so it just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, this truly has come out of nowhere. It's come out of nowhere. My last, the rib one a year ago, I was doing the stupidest crap I've ever done. I was swimming like 7 days a week, no rest. Body screaming pain signals, screaming stop, and I wasn't listening. That makes sense. This time, any time where I felt anything, I would just rest. And so it just didn't make any sense. And so after a week of like discombobulated thinking, I was like, I guess injuries really do come out of nowhere. Then I have to change my book of like philosophy of training, that sometimes injuries come out of nowhere. But then I started consulting with some more people, and this topic of relative energy deficiency started to come up. And I've heard the word before. They call it red S. And I've heard other triathletes even talk about it, but I've never actually paid any attention, because I always thought that was like kind of lumped in there with like disordered eating and stuff. Like it's like people starving themselves to try and hit some weight. Limiting my eating is not something I do whatsoever. Like I'll go to Burger King whenever. Don't bother me none, right? But then I realized after some research that, oh, wait a minute, that's not what relative energy deficiency is. It certainly can be. That would be a form. That would be a way it would manifest itself in someone who is like starving themselves and who's very lean. But relative energy deficiency is when you are not eating enough on top of your training, the amount that you're burning while training, to support your body's functions of like reproduction, bone health, hormonal health, lots of different things. And so then when I started to understand that, then I asked the question of, well, how come I'm not losing any weight then if I'm in a relative energy deficiency? And of course, the first thing is, well, that's like the biggest misconception about relative energy deficiency, is that you're going to lose weight. You see, when you have a lot of body fat, yes, you will lose weight. And in fact, that's the goal for a lot of people who are trying to lose weight. They're in a relative energy, they're in an energy deficit. But when you start to get really low body fat, and I am the lowest body fat that I've been in my life. And I got a DEXA scan done probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I was in the 4% range then. I'm the leanest I've been and the lightest I've been in my whole career right now. And Talbot even called me out on it, and I guess people in the comments had sort of called me out on it, like, whoa, you're looking really lean. That I weighed 165. I now weigh 160. Doesn't matter.
Everyone in the comments asked, you look skinnier than normal, Lionel.
And Talbot asked me, like, are you worried about that? And I said, well, what do you mean? I weigh myself. I weigh 158 pounds every day, and I eat when I'm hungry. And that's the biggest misconception actually about relative energy deficiency, is that you're going to lose weight. Because when your body fat's really low, your body apparently starts to go into a sort of survival state. And if you are not eating enough to support your healthy basal metabolic rate, then your body will just slowly adjust your BMR down. And so for me, and you can go back and watch all my eating videos, where we did a calories burned, calories consumed metric. I would target 2,000 calories excess of what I burn in a day, and I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And I think I'm somewhat justified in that, because if you look on the back of basically every single food stuff, it says based on a 2,000 calorie diet, which you just think of as being like what you need to survive, and then you just eat more based on how much activity you do. But apparently it doesn't work like that. Apparently the more that you exercise and the leaner you are, the more energy it takes to maintain that lean mass. And so someone like me, for instance, now I've started to use like a simple app like MyFitnessPal. If you put yourself in as the most active person, and it's like a construction worker, carpenter, like those are the examples, it puts my BMR at 3,200 calories. And so I've been targeting 2,000 and failing just about every single day on achieving that excess of training 2,000 calorie quantity, when in reality, I should be targeting, and now if you use the IOC's recommendations, I should be targeting 3,200 to 3,500 calories excess of training per day. I've not been doing that. I've not done that for years. And I have literally every single symptom of relative energy deficiency. And what's the number one hit you in the face symptom of relative energy deficiency is stress fractures. And now we're treating this as a stress fracture. I had one literally a year prior. I'm sitting on 2 stress fractures in basically 13 months. And I've also had a sacral stress fracture, which a sacral stress fracture is like, in the vast majority of cases from the people who I've consulted with, diet is what plays the biggest role in a sacral stress fracture. As well, I mean, from my standpoint, I've had a million warning signs. I sleep like shit. My testosterone has been going down and down and down. I have problems in that department that have gone up and up and up. And so, well, it's still a learning process as to what that even means, all of those things.
You get sick a lot.
I've gotten sick 10 times in the last 15 months. 10 times. Do you know how hard it's been to string training together? I fractured my rib 13 months ago. I crashed and fractured my greater trochanter 7 months ago. And I've gotten sick 10 times in there. And now I am having to deal with another stress fracture. Like, I've not been able to train. Like, my testosterone has dropped 100 points. I'm now down to 400 low, which apparently optimal is 700 to 900. So I'm very low on the testosterone. I mean, I'm like having, basically, it's TMI, but I'm having ED at times. It's TMI, but it probably should be talked about, because in women, this used to be called, it should be talked about because I didn't listen, because I didn't think that this has anything to do with me, because I kind of like, for better or worse, thought of that as like an eating disorder or something, when in reality, I don't have disordered eating, but I am definitely in an energy deficiency. And so it used to be called, I guess, the female triad, and one of the triad was the loss of menstruation, whereas men don't have that. We don't obviously lose menstruation. So I guess the earliest sign for men is loss of erections in the middle of the night. I guess it's a healthy thing. It's a sign of good testosterone and good hormonal health to be having erections in the middle of the night. And then also a reduction in morning testosterone and I guess free tea or something like that. And I mean, because I pee so much in the middle of the night, I can tell you that those have completely disappeared for me. And that would be like the first red flag. That would be like the equivalent of a woman starting to lose menstruation. And so, but I actually I was doing this to myself because of complete ignorance. I thought, in fact, interestingly, we've done a million videos now about eating better. And eating better is extremely important. Eating nutrition is extremely important, because if you don't eat good nutrition, you will be nutrient deficient. What I didn't understand, and certainly what I've done, in fact, accelerated the process in the last 7 or 8 months, is by eating cleaner, I've actually reduced my caloric intake even more, because I haven't made up for that reduction in total calories through eating cleaner by increasing calorie dense foods. If you wanted to eat really healthy, you could do it with avocados and olive oil and all these sorts of things. But anyhow, I would say I've actually probably accelerated the energy deficiency through cleaning up my diet the last little while, which I wouldn't turn back on. It's extremely important, but you have to understand that you can also be deficient in energy. And I didn't understand that. And so I've not been losing weight. On a normal 4-hour day, I burn knocking on the door of 4,000 calories during training in a normal 4-hour training day. And if I hit 6,000 calories consumed that day, that would be a phenomenal day. I, on average, would eat 5 to 5,500 calories on a 4,000 calorie training day. And I used to weigh, when I felt ferocious, I weighed 165 to 166 pounds in the morning. And now I weigh 157 to 158 in the morning. So over the years of doing this to myself, I've probably burned through the little bit of body fat that I had and got to a dangerously low level, and then started to burn through some of my lean muscle mass. And then in order to stop losing weight, my body seems to have adjusted they're considered to be non-essential processes, which would be my reproductive processes, so testosterone and all those sorts of hormones. And bone growth is one of thing that's considered to be non-essential. And then my immune health, which is another thing, I guess, that's considered to be non-essential to survival. And so now I'm back to believing that no injury comes out of nowhere. That makes a lot of sense. Now that's a gaping hole. Do you know on those 4-hour days, which I do on average, I do about 5 4-hour days a week, with a BMR of 3,200 to 3,500, which is like very likely, also because I live in a hot environment where training is actually more stressful because you do it out in the heat. And so it's like you burn even more than what the calorie burn rate says on the surface. I would have to consume 7,200 to 7,500 calories per day. Go back and watch my 7-hour training day videos. That's about how much I would consume on the 7-hour training day, not the 4-hour training day. I would never consume over 7,000 calories on a 4-hour training day. I've never consumed that on a single time. So I've lived with this for most of my career. Actually, when did I last not live with it? When did I have a little bit of excess and actually was like a little on the heavier side? When I ate like complete shit. That's when I was the last time. I'm talking when I ate nothing but processed foods. That's the last time that I was in excess and had probably a healthy amount of body fat for someone like myself in this profession. And so that's where we're at right now. And so, but damn, you ain't winning a world title if you're not aware of how it's a full-time job, how much you have to eat. This is not a problem for the vast majority of people because the vast majority of people have body fat, right? My body fat is so low that the body is trying to preserve body fat. And so I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. That was a gaping hole in my game that I didn't understand. And I'll be honest with you, this has been an absolute blessing because this was probably the gentlest way that I could ever learn this lesson, because I've heard Red S, I've heard other athletes talk about this. I've never listened though. I've never taken the time to hear and to digest what Red S actually is. And now that I understand, I'm like, holy crap, that makes a lot of sense. And wow, that's a huge performance killer. And of course, what's the biggest performance killer? A stress fracture, because you don't train anymore. That's the biggest performance killer, but it certainly kills performance. And so it's been actually a blessing. I'm looking at it as a blessing to have learned this lesson in a fairly gentle way. And so what's next for the season? We're playing it by ear. I'm back swimming. I'm going to be back on the bike tomorrow. Hopefully everything will go good. So far in the swim, everything's going great. Back to swimming now. I'm back swimming again. Perfect. Next is bike. This is how it goes with the stress reaction. And then, I'm giving it minimum 4 weeks completely off running. And even then I would say probably intuitively I'm more like 6 weeks off running, which puts me at the end of June to get back to running. So
Placid was
Placid unfortunately is going to have to be out. And so I would say season now looks like Louisville, August 17th, small race, but it's where I started. It's literally where I did my first Ironman. I've wanted to go back. I've hoped that become a pro race for the Ironman, but it's the 70.3. I'll take what I can get. I can't go straight to an Ironman now. I just can't. I can't do that to myself. I refuse to do that to myself. I need time to prepare properly. I don't want to do races if I don't have a chance. Like, I am not interested. I want to do races that I prepared for properly. So I'm going to give the body the time it needs. Season's not over. It's a shitty time, but it also isn't, because if I do things right and I'm able to get back to it 1st of July, then I think Nice is still a go, and I still think I might have to level my expectations a bit, but I still think I can do well in Nice. And so obviously this changes the plans for going to Europe and all this stuff. I still got to go to Europe for sure if I'm doing Nice, because I need to spend some time on that course for sure. But we'll just have to kind of change the plan a bit. So as of right now, I'm hoping, praying, and I have a good feeling that I'm going to be back at it in a couple weeks, 3 weeks or so, back with a walk run. I'll be back swimming and biking full tilt. And then we'll do a little Rust Buster 70.3, and hopefully we'll be back, we'll be in Nice, and then hopefully we'll come back here, do a little more preps, and then I should be full steam for Marbella. And it's been a blessing, because I think we may have just found, who knows, 2, 3, 4% performance gain when I get back to it, because I mean, the reality is your body can't repair itself properly or as quickly if you're not giving it the energy it needs to repair itself. So I have no idea where we're headed. I'm actually quite excited. So it sucks, but c'est la vie.